Boys and girls, this is Punchman Bok Choi. Welcome you back to another F1 23 ranked online video. The audio and video are a little bit desynced today, so I have it a little bit lower just so it doesn't mess with you. Now, this first race is at Imola. It was from last week's races, and the final two videos are from this week. So, not much going on in this lobby. There's only 3 cars here. It was kind of like late on a Sunday night, I believe, or Saturday night, so there's only 3 cars. We qualified on pole, starting on the mediums though. However, the 2 cars behind were on the softs. I didn't want to bother fighting too hard, as I didn't want to lose any time. These guys are probably going to be using a lot of their battery right at the beginning of the race and start to fight. So we skip to lap 3 now. We're still sitting pretty close to the leaders here, only 2 seconds away from P1. And going into these corners here in sector 1, Gustavo has a bit of a moment and goes off track. So we get that position back. Now eventually Diabolical in P1, I think he loses connection or something and he ends up being booted from the race. So that's one less car that we have to deal with. Going into the pits now to change onto the soft tires, we should have the advantage, although Gustavo came in the lap before, so his tires are a little bit warmer and in better optimal temperatures than ours. As you can see, we are still at 73% just coming out of the pits. So even though he got the undercut on us, I think he pitted 2 seconds behind us and we still managed to come out about 2 seconds in front of him. His tires are much warmer than ours and we are still in the blue pretty much. So he's using a lot of battery right now to try and catch up. Smart move, smart decision, I suppose, as we will have the speed advantage once the soft tires come into temperature. So he's just a little bit over 1 second right now, and he's fighting really hard to try and get within DRS. So we're going to be using a little bit of battery as well. I want to try and stave off giving him DRS until as late as possible, but because our tires aren't in good temperature range, we just can't do it. Didn't have enough grip. We're still at 85 degrees right now, so he manages to get back within DRS, and so we really can't do much. Not gonna fight it too hard right now. Tires still aren't in a good temperature range, and he's already right on our gearbox with DRS, so we're just gonna move over to the side and let him by, although he's not really catching up that quick. I'm not sure if he's using battery or if he's just using DRS at that point. So we just sat behind him for the rest of the race. There's only about 7 laps left to go, and now we move on to the penultimate lap here, lap 15. Tires finally in a decent range. I think we overfueled a little bit. As you can see, we still have over half a lap worth of fuel of excess in our fuel tank, but we're in a good position right now. We are just a little over 6.5 tenths behind him going into this chicane here. We don't get a great chicane, but he doesn't either, and we are about 8.5 tenths back. So we do lose a few tenths there, but we have a decent amount of battery and we are still in a good position. So right now the softs are kind of going off. His mediums should be a little bit faster than our softs right now, a little over half a second behind as we come into the final straight of the race here, and he's starting to blink right now. So we just barely get by him, and I'm expecting a dive right now, which he does, and he sets himself off track. So he loses the position there. We only have about 7% left, but he was flashing as well, so we know that he's under 10% as well. So final lap here, he's 8 tenths behind right now, but like I said, our softs have gone off. His mediums should be faster now, and I think we are at similar battery percents right now. We're just a little bit over 10%, and we are going to try and save it for the end to try and fight off on the final straight. So going into Aqua Minerale, don't really have a good Aqua Minerale. He gets a much better exit than we do, but we still have about a car length or so in front of him. Wanting to go into this really carefully, I don't want to mess up here, so we don't get a great exit. He gets a better exit, but he drives into the back of us for some reason, and now we are using up the last of our battery, and I'm expecting another dive, which he does, and he overshoots, goes off track. We give him enough space, but he comes back on track and then hits us, and we managed to get the win here. Now, I only put this up here because I don't really like what happened on that last lap. I will throw up a replay and let you see what happened. So here we are on the straight. We're in chase cam just to see the distance between us. We start blinking at around the same time, and we clear him. We completely clear him, but he sends it in anyway and cuts the corner, puts us off, and then he puts himself off. Yeah, not a legal move, and I don't like these kind of desperation moves on the last lap because you're not even staying on track at this point. And here we have like almost 2 car lengths on him, and he sends it anyway, goes off track. We leave plenty of space, and he still comes back and hits us. So yeah, not a big fan of these desperation moves that don't work. But our performances from last week were good enough to keep us in Gold 1. I wasn't a big fan of the track, so I didn't do too many races there. And this week we have China, Singapore, and Monaco. Again, not a big fan of these tracks here, but China and Singapore we can do. But anytime I got into a race at Monaco, I just exited the lobby because there's just no good racing to be had at Monaco. If you're not on pole or in the top 3, you're just going to get crashed out anyway. So our first race at China here, we qualified P5 starting on the mediums. And there's a couple guys on the softs in and around us. So we kind of get a decent start, but the driver ahead kind of gets off the line a little bit slow, boxes us in a little bit. We try to go around the outside, but then a whole bunch of cars just dive it down our right-hand side, and so we have to give some position. So a few cars get DNF'd at this corner here, and we have dropped down to P6. We get tagged from behind. And then we lose momentum and start losing even more positions. So currently P8 right now, trying to look down the inside here, but really hesitant because the cars ahead of us were kind of moving all over the place under braking. So we managed to gain another position as the Ultimate 100 goes off on that corner there, and now we are in P7 with C Graham 98 in front of us, who has a bit of a moment through this corner here, and we close up on him, but can't really do anything around this section of track. And this is probably the worst section of track for me, that double apex left-hander going into this really weird corner complex here before the back straight. But we still managed to keep P7 here, even though Ultimate 100 is right on our 6 looking to get by. I believe we are on 40-30 wings. I think time trial wings are 42-32, but we just moved down a few clicks on the front and on the rear to give ourselves a little bit of straight line speed. So only 72% of battery left, as we had to use a little bit more ERS than I wanted to on that first lap. But there was just so much chaos and slow cars that I wanted to try and maintain as many positions as we can. Graham goes off track there on the final corner and comes back on. Once again, strict corner cutting, not really an issue here. I don't understand why they even bothered telling us that they changed the corner cutting rules to strict when it doesn't even apply in the race. I think it applies in quali, as there are people who get disqualified in quali, but in the race people are still getting corner cuts and no penalties. So we managed to go off there, but don't get a warning. There's plenty of warnings being handed out, but just no penalties. And we make the move on Graham. So we have moved up to P6, and we have a couple cars on our gearbox right now. Graham looking to try and get by again. He's down our right-hand side, and I want to keep this position as he was just so slow in front of us. So we managed to stay in front of him, but now he has a decent run down this straight, but there's no DRS yet, so we still are able to maintain P6 at this point with Graham and Ultimate 100 behind us looking to get by. A couple people DNFing, or one guy DNFing, but he is behind us, so nothing to worry about for us there. We're not going to gain any positions anyway. And now the leaders ahead are kind of in two groups. P1, P2 are a little bit ahead of P3 and P4, but they're still close enough to where we might have a shot, but we've lost a whole bunch of time sitting behind Graham there for the first couple laps, but the leaders were just so much quicker than us anyway. I don't think we really had a chance of catching up to them. So the two drivers behind still able to maintain a decent gap to us. DRS has been enabled for this lap, so they will have a shot going down the back straight there. And we don't really have enough of a gap to really stay in front of them at this point. Half a second only, and even the Ultimate 100 is under a second, so he's about to get DRS and should be able to easily pass us as well. We only have 25% battery left at this point, and we don't have anybody to give us DRS ahead of us, so there's no point in fighting. I'm not even going to use my battery to try and defend as Graham comes sailing on by. Ultimate 100 close behind him, but we should be able to keep this position at least for now. So back down to P7 on lap number 3. The leaders are pretty much gone at this point, and we're just going to be fighting for maybe top 5 positions or so. Once again, we do get DRS here, but we don't get a really great exit. It looks like Ultimate 100 is using a lot of battery to try and get ahead of us. I'm not going to fight that either, and I'm hoping that these two guys will kind of get into some battles in front of us, and maybe one or both of them will go off. So back down to P8 at this point. The drivers behind now, P9, P10, are a little bit farther back, so we don't really have to worry about those guys either. So here we are at lap number 6, and I believe somebody in front had jumped into the pits, and now we are closing in on Graham. Ultimate 100 has made it up to P5 and is a couple seconds in front of us now. We do have a decent amount of battery, 50%, so we're going to get DRS here, and we're close enough to where we're going to be able to get in front of Graham pretty easily. So 2 seconds ahead, Ultimate 100, that's where we're looking at now. We spent quite a few laps stuck behind C. Graham here and lost a bit of time. So we're going to try and close the gap up to Ultimate 100 here, and like I said, I don't believe we're going to be able to make it or break into the top 4, so it looks like we're going to be battling for P5. A lap later, we do manage to catch up to Ultimate 100, and because I didn't want to fight with him and we were about to come in on the next lap anyway, I figured we'll just come in now, try and get an undercut, get track position, and then we can hopefully pull away on our out lap. So Graham 98 comes in behind us. A couple other guys come in as well. A lot of people in the pits right now, and I'm just looking at the minimap to see if we're going to be fighting anybody. We have one black dot coming around the final corner right now, and I don't know if we're going to be able to beat him out of the pits. So out of the pit lane now, and it looks like we just managed to get out in front of Sakioner. Don't know how you pronounce that. So he's been out on his soft tires already. They're already at a decent temp, and we are still working on cold soft tires right now. Good thing about China is though that it's really windy, twisty, turny, so it's really hard to get by unless you have a lot of overspeed. And even though he's got a tire advantage on us, his tires are in better working temperatures, he's still not able to get by us. So hopefully we can hold him back long enough to where once our tires do come into optimal temperatures, we can maintain this position on him. So I want to have a decent outlap here. 1, to keep position on track and not let the 2 guys behind us pass us, and 2, to try and jump any cars ahead of us who are about to come into the pits right now. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 that hadn't pitted in front of us, and we might be able to jump 1 or 2 of them. So luckily for us, coming onto the back DRS straight here, we have an 8/10 lead on Sakioner or Seisuaner, I don't know how you pronounce that, and he isn't close enough to really make a move. Diskiluanet in P6 is 5 seconds ahead. Don't know if we'll be able to catch up to him at this point, but I think Blaker62 is still having to come into the pits, so we should be able to gain 1 or 2 positions. Yeah, there he goes, Blaker62 into the pits now, and we have a couple cars exiting the pit lane. I don't know how many will be able to jump here. And as we drive by, we do manage to jump 2 cars, so we are up to P5 right now, and still keeping Sakioner behind us, and we are about to drop him outside of the 1 second DRS mark. So managed to move back up to where we originally qualified, and that was pretty much it. Started raining towards the end of the race on lap 13, but it's still not heavy enough. Ultimate 100 gained maybe about 2 or 3 seconds on us on the final lap, and Donatinos and Diskiluanet in front of us had a little bit of a coming together a few laps before, so they are a lot closer than they should be. I think they were like about 5 seconds in front of us before they ran into each other, but we were still able to come back and finish in our qualifying spot. So not a bad race for us. Clearly the guys ahead were much faster, and we really didn't have a chance, and China just man, I did not do any running at China since like the release of this game. I was looking at when I saved my setup in time trial, and it was like June 19th or something like that. So yeah, we haven't raced here in quite a bit. So I think I did maybe an hour or two of running in Grand Prix mode just to kind of get a handle on things. So actually not a bad performance considering we didn't have too much running here. So yep, and just wanted to show this to let you know that no penalties are still being handed out for track extensions. But that's it for race number 1 at China. And here we are, race number 2. We qualified on pole, starting on the mediums. In qualifying, I think we were P2 or P3, but right as we got into the final 2 corners, I believe the 2 guys ahead of us ended up going off track, so they were disqualified in qualifying, and we managed to finish on pole. So as you can see, Venus starting on the sauce behind us. He's going to get a much better launch than we will. And a little bit of a glitch there. Again, not going to fight him. We're kind of in the middle, so I just backed out to preserve my own race. I'm not going to get destroyed on turn 1, so I'd rather lose 2 positions than just get knocked out right away. So we're down P3 right now. We have Scores behind us trying to get by. He's on our inside right, and we just let him by here. I'm not going to try and fight him. Another car going down the inside. He tags Scores and sends Scores off spinning. And now we are down to P4, or back up to P4. So we have a couple soft runners behind us, and we have a couple cars ahead of us. This guy lagging out was scaring the crap out of me. I didn't want him to drive into me or me to drive into him as he ghosted back on track. But luckily for us, his connection stabilizes for now, so we don't have to worry about being hit by a laggy car. Now, the driver behind looking to get by, but he's just, I don't know, maybe he doesn't realize that I'm on the mediums and he's on the sauce, and I can't brake as early as he does. And you'll see quite a bit of him trying to take his normal brake zones and not realize that I'm on the mediums and I can't brake as late as he can. So you'll be seeing him kind of getting really, really close and then going off in the corner because he has to get off the brakes to avoid hitting us, or get on the brakes even more to avoid hitting us. So at the end of lap 1 there, we've dropped down a couple of positions, but that's fine. The way that these 2 guys ahead of us are driving, I was expecting them to get into it and hopefully again have one or both of them go off. So we're just going to stay back a little bit. DRS hasn't been enabled yet at this point anyway, so there's really no point wasting battery to try and take a position that will be easily taken once DRS is enabled. Soft runners are still behind us, over a second back, and then there we go. We see carbon fiber and a whole front wing just come off, and I was like, oop, I'm hoping for retaliation here. I hope one of them will take some revenge, which they do, and I almost run into the back of this guy here, and then the soft runner behind us goes into the back of us. I guess he just did not see that the 2 cars ahead were literally driving into each other. So we're up to P3 now. At this point, I wasn't sure if King Herbs in front of us had any damage, but it looked like he didn't because he stayed on track. And again, the driver behind us going in a little bit too late on the brakes there, not realizing that we are on the mediums and there's a car in front of us, so we can't brake in our normal braking zones. So yeah, I would have expected that by now he would have realized that he needs to brake a little bit earlier, but we managed to pass King Herbs on the start of lap number 4 right there, and that was pretty much it for the race. A little bit of a kerfuffle on the first few laps, but once we got up to P2, it was clear air ahead of us. Venus 4 seconds ahead on the softs. We were stuck behind guys battling, so we lost a whole bunch of time, and we are on the mediums, so it's not going to be easy to catch up to him at this point. So I was hoping once his tires went off we would be able to catch up, but I think the gap was down to like 2.5 seconds, and then when we stopped for our softs, we came in on the same lap that he did, and by the end of the race our sauce had gone off, so at this point we're just losing time to him. He was really quick, Venus was really quick, and we just could not catch back up to him. So we were able to keep everybody else behind. At this point in the race, King Herbs is 7 seconds back. Our tires are gone right now. Kind of odd to see the front tires with higher temperatures than the back tires. Usually the tires are rear limited in this game, but I guess at China it's front limited. So another decent race, even though we started on pole. I don't believe we were the fastest on track. Like I said, there were a few guys that were ahead of us in qualifying, and they were disqualified on the final few corners. So definitely we're not the fastest guy at this track, but we're still quick enough to get P2 here anyway, and another decent race under our belt. So good enough to give us, like, I believe 211 or 212 points for division. So currently, or at least at the end of this race, we were sitting in the gold 2 promotion zone, but there were only 3 other guys in my division rankings with us. There's like nobody playing the game this week, or ranked races anyway. I think in previous weeks there's like over 20,000 players in ranked races, and in this week there was only like 12,000 so far. So seems like as the life cycle goes on, there are less and less people playing this game. But right now we're sitting in gold 2 promotion. I'm gonna try and get some more races done this weekend, but currently there is a hurricane coming towards where I live, so hopefully we don't lose power over the weekend and I can get a couple more races under my belt. Just wanted to show the race director again, a whole bunch of warnings here with no penalties. But anyway, P2 in our second race at China, and yeah, decent race. So that's it for this week so far. Hopefully, like I said, we won't lose power and get some more races, but for now, if you think I've earned it, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Stay tuned for more. Remember to eat bok choy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.